We are go for lift out. Lift out? Lift out? We are go for lift off. Over.
Well, now that we're live, we'll have to stop talking about that Nexus 5 2015 that's totally happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fuck, guys, I go away for 15 seconds and you talk about the 2015 Nexus 5.
Yeah, I know, that we're totally not supposed to talk about because it's a secret and we know all about it.
It's secret. Shh.
Also the Google Play Edition Galaxy S6, which is real and happening.
So real.
It is so real, it's fake.
If we say this enough, I think it's going to show up on like other Android blogs.
You just gotta want it enough deep in your loins. Gotta want that Galaxy S6 Google Play Edition.
I want that deep in my loins. My loins want it deeply. Well,
we are early, and we're early because, well, we're not early because Matt isn't here, but we can say it's because Matt isn't here.
Right, we're early
Matt
because
always
Matt's
slowing us down.
Hi, Scuttlefield. We're actually, if we go back to our original time, we're 20 minutes late, so.
That's true.
Yeah, we changed the time for Cam, right? Because he was doing that thing at his local bike shop.
Is he still doing that thing?
I
imagine not. I mean, I can't. I don't think he would have time, will you?
I don't know.
Well, that's probably a good thing to explore, because if we can go back to the earlier time, that'd probably be better.
It would. Yeah. So this week's show, for the two people who are listening live, might be a little shorter.
Right.
Than usual, because we are like 5 days between shows instead of 7.
Right. And I think we're about ready to get started here. Let me hit the record. Record. Can you guys test your audios?
Testing.
Yay! I see a waveform.
I am talking now.
I see another waveform.
Okay, good.
Now I am talking.
You're all coming in on the same line, so one person is fine.
So we're all waiting.
Cool. Are you ready to get this mother started?
Yes.
Did we social it and all that good stuff?
We did.
Let's do this. Welcome to the Android Police Podcast, your weekly audio source for all things Android. My name is Bob Severance, in here for Matt Smith today. It is tax day in the United States. That's April 15th, 2015. And what's really been taxed is Matt's immune system, and that's why he's out. Who else have we got on the line tonight?
That would be me, David.
Hi.
I'm Liam Spradlin.
I'm Ryan Whitwam.
And I'm Bob Severance, still here. I had to do that because I'm always last. We've got a great show for you tonight, starting off with Code Google. Now, we've been talking about Google's entry into the carrier game with their MVNO. Now it seems like some possible details have leaked through an unofficial Nexus 6 image. David, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so we found an app and an unofficial piece of firmware for the Nexus 6 that was posted to motofirmware.net, I think, which I think is still down after this incident, which is probably related. Maybe.
They got a good spanking.
Yeah, I think Motorola is not very friendly about the whole leaked software thing, but it's also Google software, so I'm gonna guess. Anyways, we went through this APK, which is called Project Fi, and we think that name might be an internal code name for Google's carrier. Maybe it's what they're calling it when it's in testing, and then it'll have a retail name when it comes out because they don't own the necessary domains that you think they would for the Project Fi name. So we got some new details about the service, which will be a T-Mobile/Sprint MVNO that will supposedly let you smart switch between networks. And so There's going to be a flat rate for talk and text, possibly fees for MMS, but maybe that's for roaming or other weird situations. That just seems weird that that's there. You pay per gigabyte, and there will be a flat rate per gigabyte of data you consume. And at the end of the month, if you say, like, I want 3 gigabytes of data, and you only use 1.78 gigabytes, Google will then refund you the remaining 1.22 gigabytes at a prorated rate. So if it was $10 per gigabyte, for example, which we don't know if it is, you would get back $12.20 on your bill, which is very nice. Supposedly this app will also allow you to activate your service in the app. You'll probably get mailed a Google, whatever, Google Wireless, Google Mobile SIM, and you'll just plug that in and install the app, and voila, you'll sign up for service. So that's the basics of what we know so far.
So this sounds kind of like what Ting does, right? Because they'll like let you step down to like a lower plan automatically if you don't use all of the data you requested, right?
Yeah, but I think Google doing the prorated, down to the cent thing will be a lot nicer.
Yeah,
as long as you don't go over, and then you'll pay a penalty fee of the full gigabyte each one you go over, supposedly.
Yeah, I mean, if this we heard before that this might only be on the Nexus 6, at least at first, but I mean, I think we didn't really see any direct evidence of that in the APK, but that would be interesting if they made it available for all phones, maybe if not initially at some point, because that's a really good, depending on the cost, that could be a really good deal compared to other MVNOs if you can access T-Mobile and Sprint without a bunch of legwork. Because there are some places where T-Mobile is really, really fast, but if you end up sort of outside of a city, Sprint might actually have LTE and T-Mobile doesn't.
Yeah, I think the other thing, it looks like it will be Nexus 6 only, because for now, the Nexus 6, I think, is the only phone in the world that works on T-Mobile and Sprint with compatibility.
5?
Does Nexus
Right?
5?
Yeah.
I don't know if the Nexus 5 has all of the...
It doesn't have all the bands, right?
Yeah, it might not have the newest Sprint bands.
Well, if it's not I guess maybe it's not tri-band or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
They call it.
Yeah, so I guess the Nexus 5 could theoretically kind of do it, but it sounds like it's only going to be Nexus 6 because there's also some reference language in the app about buying a phone, and the only phone you can buy is a Nexus 6. So, not that they would sell you an old Nexus 5, but
yeah, obviously.
The rumor was Nexus 6, but maybe they will bring it to Nexus 5, and that's just not going to be something they widely advertise.
I'm not as good as Matt as segues, so I'm not going to do them. There.
Okay.
I'll make them up in post. So with Lollipop, we got a lot of cool new ways to unlock our devices, trusted ways. This week, we have another fun way that has cropped up. Can you tell us about the trusted voice unlock, Liam? How does this thing work?
So in the last update to Play Services, I think the 7.0 update or something, we saw signs of trusted voice as one of the smart lock options, but the setting wasn't hooked up in the Google app. However, now it is. So you can turn on trusted voice, and it will unlock and let you use voice actions only with the voice model that it has stored for you. So when you're setting it up, Google says, this isn't really that secure because anybody who sounds like you or who has a recording of your voice could unlock your phone and do stuff to it. But it's still pretty neat.
Now, it says here it's rolling out to some users. Do we have any idea of who's going to be getting this feature? Obviously, everybody ultimately, but do we know who it's rolling out to, or is it random?
Presumably devices that have support for the lock screen or screen off unlocking. But yeah, we're not sure how the rollout is structured. But.
Okay, so keep your eyes and ears and voices peeled. Peel your voices. Also this week with the 5.1 update, it seems that some Nexus 5 owners are reporting that they're having some camera problems. I can't click off. How does Matt do that? What's going on, David?
Well, if you have a Nexus 5 and you got Android 5.1, which recently happened, your camera app may be broken completely. So you start the app and then it crashes and then repeat. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes restarting fixes it for a while, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes a factory reset fixes it, sometimes it doesn't. So we don't know what the problem here is, but Google is probably going to fix it in 5.1.1. I don't know if we have that information yet. Anyway, so yeah, if you have a Nexus 5 and you're experiencing this bug with your camera in Android 5.1, you can tough it out, or you can roll back to Android 5.0.1 until it's fixed.
Now, if you're a Nexus 5 owner who also happens to pay for Google Music Key service, you might have been locked out of this subscription service this week. Now, you would think with something like Music Key, even if you're locked out, you'd get access to these features like ad-free tracks, background playback, but that's not so simple all the time, is it?
Yeah, so there are some people that are having issues. So if you signed up for Google Play Music All Access or whatever the new name is, if it's just Music Key or whatever. So if you go to YouTube Music Key, and even if you're in a supported country, or if you're in a not supported country, you'll go there and it'll not work. You won't get your YouTube Music Key videos. And Google's response is, that's broken right now, and there's nothing you can do to fix it. And that is basically really what it says on the support page, is that this process or this issue is not resolvable. So they're going to have to change something, I assume. I mean, I don't know. Like
Making it work would be a place to start.
Yeah, that help support message was like extremely unhelpful. Like, thank you. We know it's broken. Thank you.
You have to think that they're going to have some sort of PR campaign as well. I mean, these people that are paying for a service which virtually they have no access to, they've got to do something with either a credit or something, I would think.
Yeah, I would think so.
Also this week, Android's always let us customize the look and feel of our OS inside our phones, but it seems with Google Workshop, we're going to be able to customize the outside of our devices with unique cases. Tell us a little bit about that, Liam.
Yeah, so several months ago we posted about Google Workshop, which was something that at the time Google was just experimenting with the web interface for essentially customizing your own phone case using either your photos or map-based content from Google Maps. So we wrote about it, and it kind of disappeared for a while. We didn't really know the status on it. However, last night Google posted a photo of a Nexus 6 with a custom case on it using Google Maps imagery, and it looked just like the cases that we saw in Workshop. So the post has been deleted now, but we got a screenshot of it, so you can see that in the post. Obviously, we still don't really know if Google is planning on launching this publicly, and if so, when, but presumably it would show up in the Google Store at some point.
Yeah, but deleting the post is like super, super suspicious.
Yes, that's like...
It's like, okay, you caught me.
Yeah. Oops. I hit the wrong button. I did not mean to post that.
Just the fact that the photo came from Googler, and the fact that they specified that it was Google Maps imagery, and the fact that the Google Maps Terms of Service says you cannot use Google Maps imagery on items that you're selling, leads me to believe that it did, in fact, come from Google. So personally, I'm hoping that they do launch this, because that's a pretty cool idea, I think. I mean, there are companies that do it already, but getting one straight from Google would be cool.
Yeah, it would be nice if they let you have those made for like different phones, but I'm sure it'll probably just be the Nexus 6.
Yeah. And, Nexus 5 2015, I'll probably have one too.
Oh, yeah, when that happens. Yeah, and also the Google Play Edition Galaxy S6, which is totally going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. Also this week, a new Google Play program designed for families will highlight family-friendly content. What all does this, how do you qualify to be highlighted for Design for Families, Liam?
So the Design for Families thing is a designation that presumably Google will use to promote apps that are verified to be family-friendly. You get in by filling out some certain things in the rating questionnaire. So your app has to be everyone, rated for everybody. And then you have to follow certain guidelines, like if your app has ads, for instance, you can't use targeted advertising on child users. and you have to verify that the ad content is in line with your app's rating, that sort of thing. So then you get verified as part of the Design for Families program.
Do we know if there's any ongoing way to police whether or not it remains that way?
Not to my knowledge. I mean, if Google is looking at, manually going through app updates, I guess there's a chance that they could catch something that changes, but it's Google, so there's no way to really know.
Finally, in Code Google this week, the Moto 360 is getting a pretty steep discount in the Google Store. What models have we seen, and what kind of discount do we expect users to see, David?
Well, for the basic models on the Google Store, you're now going to pay $165, which is, we've seen that level of discount on Amazon previously. Actually, not quite that low. This is lower than that. So this is about $15, and we'd previously seen it. Although I think some of those came with Google Play Store credit or something, whereas I don't believe this one does. The only models on the Google Store, though, are the black and stone gray ones. You don't get the metal ones or the other fancy colors, so you can get a Moto 360 for not a lot of money if you want a Moto 360, which probably means that the new Moto 360 is coming out at some point relatively soon.
Yeah, you should only buy this if you are just in general opposed to spending like $300 on a smartwatch.
Or if like Sparkplug in the chat room, you don't need your system to trust your butt anymore.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the rumor roundup. It's time for the rumor roundup. It seems like we know everything there is to know about the rumored LG G4, now thanks to a huge web leak. So Ryan, can you tell us a little bit about some new information that we found out about the G4?
Yeah, so we pretty much know what it looks like now. Originally, this page that popped up, it had a bunch of specs listed, but we later figured out that a lot of that was filled in with data from the G3. But there are still a ton of pictures of the device, and it all looks pretty legit. So, I mean, there's leather. It's got leather on the back, and there are multiple colors of leather, and then there appear to be plastic versions as well, which I imagine will be sort of the default version of the phone. And then you can probably pay a premium if you want the one with the leather back. And the backs are removable, so I guess you could probably just get, a spare leather back if you wanted to only have that on there sometimes. It has like a weird stitched seam right down the middle, which I'm not super
It
sold
is
on.
the mullet of smartphones.
Yeah, it's
This is the front end,
very-
some really weird party in the back. Like, it's not a party you would want to go to.
Well, maybe you would. I mean, I'm thinking like in terms of some phones, how they let you do the laser etching on the back. Do you think maybe they would make like a custom branding iron and they could just slap a big mark on the back of there?
I bet if we looked around, we could probably find somebody somewhere who branded their Moto X. That would be.
I'm gonna guess that is a thing. In fact, I'm pretty sure I've heard of that. Like I'm like picturing the picture on my mind right now. But yes, it looks so hideous with the leather.
I mean,
with the plastic, it looks normal-ish, I guess.
They have like yellow and like sky blue leather in these pictures, and they look. I mean, even if you're like, maybe you think that like the regular colored leather ones look okay. I don't know how anyone thinks yellow leather is an okay thing to have on a phone.
Yeah, I'm going to guess that we will not get any of the more interesting leather colors here in America if we even get the two boring ones.
Yeah. But then there are plastic ones too, and they showed a picture of their new camera interface, manual mode, which actually looks pretty cool. If you if you want to tweak your photos a bit more than most camera apps let you. And then another thing to note about the device, I mean, we have heard this, and some of the old pictures kind of showed it off a little bit, but it does appear to be curved. They call it a slim arc design, but it's an LCD. I mean, LG's already announced the screen, so we know it's a 5.5-inch 1440p LCD, and LCDs do not usually bend very well. So I'm interested to see.
Just a little bit of a bend. I mean, I guess the
Yeah.
LCD can take a bit of curvature. Just a
Maybe
touch.
just
I don't
a
know.
little.
They must be thinking of some technology with a lot of bend, because also this week we got some details on a leaked LG patent, right? They dream up a bendable phone that you can slap on your wrist.
Yeah, they imagined this thing that does not exist now and probably will never exist. But it's ridiculous enough that you should go and look at the drawings that they made of it. It looks like one of those slap bracelets from the '90s, but it's a phone. And it would, I mean, it obviously would have to have some sort of OLED display because an LCD is not bending that much. Certainly not. So yeah, I mean, it's just a very unrealistically thin phone that you'll be able to wrap around a bracelet on your wrist, and I think it's a dumb idea.
I think that this is like the fever dream of a serially unsuccessful Kickstarter huckster. Like it's just way too far out there.
Yeah,
I'm
there
just-
are there
Go
are
ahead.
Kickstarters that have promised almost this exact thing, and I don't think any of them have worked.
Right now, it's my blood pressure monitor that I wear when I'm working out at work. It just clasps around your wrist and looks exactly the same as this thing. So I don't know. Is it really? I mean, the design is not anything new, like you said. You've seen the stuff in Kickstarter and everything else.
Yeah.
So, information from a Bloomberg article this week suggests that the successor to the popular OnePlus One phone is coming out, but we also hear that there may possibly be a cheaper model as well. Do we care to speculate on what we might see cut out, or do we have any more information there?
I mean, this new phone, this cheaper phone, we had not heard of previously. It sounds like the CEO basically let it not slip. I mean, I'm sure it was completely planned, but it sounds like they are going to do a cheaper phone, and that the OnePlus 2 is going to come out in Q3 of this year, which I think we kind of heard before, anyways. So we'll see that phone, and then we'll see the cheaper phone by the end of the year, allegedly. And also, they want some venture capital funding. If people could just throw money into this very large bag, and we will go back to Shenzhen and make more phones.
That sounds like a legit thing there.
Yeah, I mean, throwing money into a bag when you don't know where it's going is generally a good idea. Anybody that has a bag for money, you just toss it in there.
Well, I've done that before.
Yeah. So did they? I mean, he didn't clarify like if they meant cheaper than the OnePlus One or cheaper than whatever the OnePlus 2 will be. Did he?
I don't know. I don't think the OnePlus 2 will be any more expensive.
I mean, but what if they were? What if like the flagship OnePlus 2 is like a $500 or $600 phone, and then they make a cheaper one than that is sort of in the same price bracket as the OnePlus One?
Yeah, I don't, I think that would probably be a bad strategy for them, though, because the OnePlus One is so popular. Because of the accessible price.
I just want you to remember what company it is you're talking about.
It's so true.
It's just that their strategy thus far has not been what you could call, good.
Yeah. We'll see, I guess. I mean, I'm interested to see if they do a cheap phone, because I think that segment, like the Moto G to Moto E,
I mean, if you can,
phones.
if you can make something that competes well with the Moto G, that's a huge deal right now. People buy the Moto G all the time. Like I've talked to people who like need a new phone, and like, oh, I don't want to spend like $400, $500, $600 on a phone after I broke one. And it's like, well, you could just get a Moto G. It's $180, and they're like, sold. That sounds great.
Yeah, I think entering that market's going to be important for a lot of smartphone companies in the U.S. Here shortly. So I could definitely see OnePlus doing a phone in that realm.
Cool. The realm of cheapness. Let's move on to Android at ARMS. Well, we had a story yesterday on the website that suggested that the EU, or the European Union, was expected today to announce a formal antitrust case against Google. Ryan, did this happen?
It did indeed. The EU is going to officially investigate Google for its search practices, so we started hearing about this on Tuesday afternoon, and they expected on Wednesday morning that it would be announced. I think it was a little later than we originally thought, but that did happen today. So the EU is going to take Google to task for supposedly giving its own services preferential treatment in search. So they're talking about things like shopping links and travel, and things of that nature. So if you like searched for something that would pull up results on a shopping website, then Google shopping links might show up ahead of other things, which I mean kind of would expect sometimes. But Europe says that what they're doing is not okay. So if they actually take this all the way, and there's no settlement or anything, this could result in over $6 billion in fines. It is unlikely it would actually be that much. I mean, if it got settled at some point, it would be substantially less. But Google might end up having some sort of competition agreement that they have to, abstain from doing certain things or provide competitors with some sort of special treatment. But this is still super early in the process, and it could be years before there's any movement on this. I mean, the case that Microsoft had in Europe took, I think, once the charge sheet was released, it was like 6 years before that finished up. So it could be a while before anything changes. There may also be an Android aspect to the investigation. I don't know if the EU has specified if the dominance of Android is the big deal to them at the moment, but Google did say that they expected that to happen too.
Yeah, I think the EU was looking into the notion that because you buy Android, Google services are foisted upon you for some reason. So,
yeah, which totally just makes a whole bunch of sense, except that I don't know, it kind of doesn't, since Android is open source.
Yeah, and the whole point that companies choose to contract with Google for this version of the operating system specifically because those are desirable things to have.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, I mean, in some ways you can sort of see why Europe would be at least investigating, because Google has like a 92 or 94% market share in Europe, which I mean is essentially a monopoly. But I mean, just having monopolies against the law, it's abusing it that is against the law. So they'll have to, show that Google is actually abusing their monopoly. I mean, I think in the U.S. it's like 60 or 70% Google usage. So
is it that low in the U.S.?
I think. Well, is it? I don't know. We can probably Google this in like 5 minutes.
We could.
Or in like 5 seconds.
We'll definitely
if we Google it on Google, it'll take 5 seconds. If we Google it on Bing, it'll take 5 minutes.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah, I also just triggered the OK Google thing on my computer when I said that.
OK Google. Now
you're right. It's about 64.4%.
Yeah, I nailed
it. That's pretty good. I would have guessed it was much higher. I would have guessed around the 80s.
I don't know how much of that is Bing.
I don't know. I'm not looking at the graph.
It's got to be a huge.
It's Microsoft, yeah. It's Microsoft's at almost 20%.
Yeah, and it's because people don't know how to turn off their default search providers.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then it falls to Yahoo, and then somehow Ask is still on there.
Wow. Yeah, the thing is, like, even like with the Microsoft thing 10 years ago, and the Google thing now, it's like they're implying that people just can't use something else. It's not like you're locked into using Google for anything. I mean, people go to Google to do searches, or they have, a phone with Google set as the default search engine, but nobody's forcing them to use that.
Right.
And I mean, in Microsoft 10 years ago, they had to make a version of Windows that didn't have Media Player installed. That's what the EU was super worried about, is that Microsoft would have an unfair advantage in Media Player software, something that ended up totally not mattering at all.
It's kind of weird. It's almost the reverse of the Microsoft case, where all of these other search, like you just talked about, Bing, Yahoo, Ask. These are these toolbars that people download with software. They commandeer their web browser, change their search providers, and that's the only reason why they're using these things. Now Google's actually getting their hands slapped because it's easier to go to a website and type in a web search, than to use this crap. It's laughable, actually.
Yeah, it's kind of, the nanny state, almost anti-populist sentiment, I think, that the EU regularly displays in antitrust actions. I don't know about the merits based on, the laws about antitrust in the EU. But looking at Google Shopping, I don't see something that is competitive in the first place.
Yeah, Google released some graphs. They posted them officially today and sent like a memo to employees yesterday evening about all this that show how little of the market they control in Europe with like the shopping and travel stuff. It's like a tiny, tiny segment. But so I guess I don't really understand the EU's concern. It's like they've had these services active for a couple of years and they haven't eaten up the market. People go to Google to search for stuff. They don't necessarily use Google Shopping or Google's travel links.
It's crazy.
Yep.
Well, let's move on to the hot sheet. So there are a couple devices that we've learned about. Huawei has a steel-clad P8 and an enormous 6.8-inch, otherwise known as the Eat Your Mother Alive phone, the P8 Max for 30 countries, but not the U.S., David. Is this correct?
Yeah, the U.S. is not on the launch list. That could change at some point for these devices. The P series, the Ascend P series, is Huawei's flagship tier device. So it's all the best technology, all of the premium materials. I haven't used an Ascend P series since the P7, like 2 years ago, and that was actually kind of crappy. But they've come a long way since then, and the new operating system looks pretty decent. I mean, it looks kind of iOS-y for sure in the way that many Chinese ROMs do, but
kind of is being kind. It looks kind of a lot like iOS.
It's a little bit of a ripoff in some places, but the phones themselves, they use Huawei's processors. They use Huawei's LTE complete setup in there. And they have, I think, 15 LTE bands or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, it's insane. It has like every LTE band that you could need in North America or I think Europe or Asia.
Yeah, so they want to build a world LTE phone, which makes sense because they're an LTE technology company as well. So these phones are going to retail in Europe. I believe the P8 starts at $499 and $599 depending on storage model you want, and then the P8 Max is $549 and $649 depending on the storage you want.
So, does this phone have an app drawer?
No.
See, that's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, but you put a launcher on there, and it's like
I know, but it's just weird. Like I can't think of any phone ever sold in North America where the stock UI doesn't have an app drawer. It's just it just is kind of weird.
Yeah, it is, but I mean, yeah, you can change the launcher, but yeah, Huawei's UI. I mean, it could be worse. It could be their old UI that I still have on the Ascend Mate 2, which is just like it's like going back to like TouchWiz 1.0 on the first Galaxy S as far as the aesthetics are concerned. So at least they've moved past that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fairly handsome phone, I suppose, all things considered. Or both of them are. I mean, they look.
I think
very
it looks
similar,
generically iPhone cloney in the way that many Chinese phones in the last year or so have looked.
Yeah, but it's easy to go really, really wrong trying to do that and end up with something that's just unpleasant to hold.
Yeah. So the thing they did that was not nice during this launch is, they launched the microsites for each phone, and then somebody was like, hey, these marketing shots would look a lot better if we just got rid of the bezels on the screen. Just get rid of them. Just draw them off. And somebody in the marketing department is like, "That's a great idea. They should get you down in engineering immediately." And they then modified the photos of the P8 and P8 Max to eliminate the bezels running along the vertical axes of the screens.
Yeah. Why didn't the engineers think of that, huh?
I know. I don't know why.
Engineers.
It's some pretty simple technology. You just go in and Photoshop there, and you just stretch it out a little bit. I'm pretty sure that's how screens work too. You just you pull on them, and that's how they expand.
Yeah. If you need a bigger screen, you just clone stamp it.
Yeah, exactly. So Huawei did this, and I mean, to be fair, a lot of the manufacturers, especially from China, not to generalize, are notorious for this sort of thing. I mean, TV manufacturers do it too, big time.
Yeah,
they really take it to the limit.
The ZenWatch, the images that they used to have on Google Play before they did the Google Store were like super, super fake. Like it made the bezel on that watch look much smaller than it is.
Interesting. Yeah, that's not cool, especially when you're advertising something at the screen that big. It's quite ridiculous. Yes. But I'm gonna guess they'll fix that now that it's been pointed out. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, is this because Huawei's used to dealing with the Chinese audience? Is this thing sort of less concerning to Chinese buyers, or?
I don't know. I think it was suggested, either you or Michael suggested, that it was envy about the Galaxy S6 Edge and how it kind of looked like it spills over the edge of the screen, and Huawei's like, "Oh, we want that so bad." And somebody was like, "Oh, what if we just draw it?" And they're like, "Okay, that's a good idea.
We'll just draw it."
This is what we really, guys. This is what we really wanted to build. We would so give it to you if it were technically possible.
Nobody's gonna know. I mean, they're not gonna look at that ad and then look at their device and say, "Oh, I have this much less bezel or more bezel." That's funny.
Yeah, it's I don't know why they did that. That's one of those things that you can't do if you're going to market to Americans in America. The FCC doesn't really like that very much.
So there are phones that are designed to go edge to edge. The Galaxy S6 Edge, although we've kind of scoffed at it a little bit on the podcast, Korean news agency is claiming that up to 50% of the Galaxy S6 sales are made up of the Edge. Do we believe this, Ryan?
I don't know. I mean, I've seen 3 Galaxy 6 Edges just in the last week already. So people are buying them. I mean, I don't know if it's 50%. Or this news agency in Korea that said this, they just cited an unnamed source. They wouldn't say who it was, and Samsung refused to confirm or deny anything. They just said, "Hey, look, we're selling more phones than we have before, and that's cool." So, yeah, I mean, apparently Samsung was expecting 20 or 30% of Galaxy S6 sales to be the Edge version. I mean, and it might be half of them, which I mean, I don't know. I guess I believe. I don't know. I don't particularly like the Edge. I think it looks kind of. I mean, I don't think I could possibly deal with the way the UI sort of flows over the bend, and I mean, and it's not super comfortable to hold. I mean, I don't hate it. I know some people on the team, who shall remain nameless for the next several seconds, really don't like it.
It's a melted potato.
Yes, it's a melted potato.
I mean, Ron's picture of the on Ars Technica, Ron Amadio posted a picture of all the front fascia of every Galaxy phone to date, and it's like, wow, they really are really potato-y similar. They're just kind of a potato that is getting sometimes a little more curvy, and then sometimes a little less curvy. It's potato in geometric flux, but it is still a potato.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and the other thing is the way, because the screen curves like that, there's no angle you can hold that phone at that there's not this sort of very weird optical thing going on. There's always this light shining from the curve of the screen. It's very concerning for me personally.
Yeah, it's a stupid dumb phone. Unfortunately, I understand that people, it's different, and so people are going for it, and I think Samsung is pushing the marketing so hard on it. But I think we're going to look back in 3 years and go, yeah, that was a really ugly phone.
Yeah, I mean, it's an ugly phone that might make Samsung a whole bunch of money.
Apparently.
But I mean, I guess it. I mean, it's technically interesting. I mean, it shows how far AMOLED technology has come that they can make a 1440p AMOLED that curves like that, and it looks. I mean, it looks nice. Just as far as the screen. Like if you want to build a curvy screen, that's a really neat curvy screen. It might not be usable or good for a phone, but hey, science.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely technically impressive, and roughly as technically impressive as it was on the last Edge phone. Although less useful, apparently. Our resident Edge fanboy, Sean, says that the Galaxy S6 Edge is useless, whereas the Note Edge is fantastic in every single extant way. So, at least I agree with that. That the S6 Edge is less useful than the Note Edge is if you were to find the Note Edge useful.
I feel like this is going to be a phone though that certain people are going to defend to their death. So we're probably going to get hate mail, actually.
Oh, pretty much. I completely agree with
I'm pretty
that.
sure that someone is going to try to kill you because you called it.
It is a divisive design, to say the least.
Send all your hate mail and get well cards to Matt Smith at no. So the hottest sheet of the hot sheet this week was that a whole bevy of devices have gotten Lollipop updates, including the LTE-equipped Nexus 7 2013 Razorg device finally gets 5.1. Also, Android 5.1 is coming to the Nexus 4. The Galaxy Note 4 and Note Edge on US Cellular receive Lollipop, I believe just 5.0 there. Verizon Note 3 owners, you get Lollipop. AT&T, Samsung Galaxy S5 Active and Galaxy Alpha get Lollipop over the air. Verizon's LG G3 is getting its 5.0 update. T-Mobile is pushing 5.0 to the LG G2. AT&T is also giving the LG G2 Android Lollipop over the air. And Sony released for several devices the Xperia Z3 Dual, the Z1, Z1 Compact, and Z Ultra are all getting their Lollipop update. So if you have any of those devices, some new life and or death potentially to some of the features of your phone is awaiting you. Just hit the update button. You know you want to do it. It's time for other news. It's time for other news. It's the other news stuff. So, display maker Sharp says, not sharp enough. They're going crazy with their pixel densities. Is that right, David?
They are. So this story broke, I guess, earlier this week. And we said, Sharp's got this crazy 4K 5.5-inch smartphone display. That's what everybody covering the story wrote. And it turns out it was kind of true. It wasn't completely true, though. So actually, Ron Amadio of Ars Technica reached out to Sharp, and they sent him a picture of the display, which they did unveil a prototype of at a trade show. And it's not so much a smartphone display as it is a 15-inch display in the center of which is a 5.5-inch diagonal area with 4K pixel density. Mm-hmm. So it looks like a little display surrounded by a giant black display, or just a giant bezel many times larger than the screen itself. So I think this is mostly a technology demo, not that anything is ready to go into production.
So this kind of reminds me of back in the late 40s, early 50s when televisions came out and you had a console that was like 8 feet wide for a 9-inch screen.
Is exactly like that.
Gotcha. Okay. Also this week, LG announced a Google Cast-compatible speaker system, right? Bluetooth speakers?
Well, they have Bluetooth as well, but the Google Cast stuff is an internet-connected thing. It's Wi-Fi, so you'll be able to cast to these speakers like you can right now to like a Chromecast or something. Except this is audio. This is the Google Cast audio platform. So yeah, you'll just buy one of these speakers, you hook it up to your Wi-Fi, and you can send audio to it. Then there's also traditional Bluetooth if you want to use it like that. And there's Spotify Connect. They are expensive, though. The smallest one is $179. There are a range of standard speakers that you can get that go up to almost 400, and then there are some larger sound bars that cost between $500 and $1,000.
It's yeah, a lot of money. I've never
Yeah.
heard an LG sound system, so I have no idea how good any of this stuff would be.
Yeah, I don't know. For that kind of money, they really better they better sound okay. Oh, and I should also mention they did say in the PR that these will be available in Google Play, but I assume they mean the Google Store because Google Play is not for hardware anymore. But
Yeah.
that would make these, I think, the first cast speakers that Google sells directly.
Unless you count those bookshelf speakers that were sold at the Nexus Q.
Oh yeah, did they send those out when you didn't get your Nexus Q?
No, they didn't send out any of the speakers, unfortunately.
Nexus Q for life.
I will never forget.
So I got a visitor. I'm sorry. This is my son. He decided to join the podcast this week. So David, what's that?
I was just going to ask do you want to have him introduce the next topic?
Toby, can you introduce the next topic? Say, hey David, talk about USB-C.
Hey, Logan, this is the ABCs.
Hey David, talk about the ABCs.
I got the gist. So there's a new type of USB connector that's coming to a smartphone or tablet and probably laptop near you. You've probably heard about it called USB Type-C. I wrote a thing that's way longer than it needs to be, if I'm honest, about USB Type-C and all the practical concerns and kinds of cables and ports you're going to encounter. I would say the gist of it for smartphones, like the good summary to have, is that there will probably be USB Type-C phones this year. They probably won't be USB 3.0, and they'll probably be USB 2.0, capped to 480 megabits a second of speed, but with the up to full 60 watts of power transfer over the port, potentially, if they use the USB power delivery specification that comes with Type-C. But they don't have to use that. They could keep using Qualcomm Quick Charge or whatever. But the end result for you is that you can't plug any other USB cable into a Type-C port but a Type-C cable, and that means all of your old cables will eventually become obsolete as Type-C takes over. And that's really the main thing you need to know, is that when you buy a Type-C smartphone, you'll get a cable with it, and it is probably going to be the only cable you'll have to charge your smartphone until you buy other cables again.
I think Monoprice just started listing Type-C cables if you want to start stocking up. They're expensive, though. I think the one that you'd need for most phones, I don't know. For now, it's the standard USB to USB Type-C is $10 for one cable.
Yeah, that's for a USB 2.0, which just does the charging and then the 480 megabits of data transfer. And that's for a 6-foot one. If you want a 3-foot USB 3.1 Type-C cable, so half the length to get 3.1, it's $25 for that cable. So they're quite spendy.
Well, if you know anything about Apple, though, I mean, their Lightning cables are $19 just for the short cables. So
yeah,
this is not ridiculous by any stretch.
It's not ridiculous, but given how I don't think USB Type-C will ever be as cheap as micro USB was, just because especially the 3.1 cables require more components inside them, more wires, and the port design is a little more complex, I think, than older iterations. So I don't think they'll ever get down to the prices we saw, at least not for years and years, and by then we'll probably come up with a better port standard. And the other thing to know is that there probably isn't any other direction you could take a port for a smartphone or tablet. It's USB Type-C or bust. Apple could hold on to Lightning, or they could choose not to. But Android phones will, without a doubt, go to Type-C, and there is no competing standard out there. Type-C is the only one for the smartphone and tablet form factor.
No, as long as wireless charging continues to be a thing, I'll survive. I mean, the only time I plug most of my phones in is when I need to use ADB for something.
Yeah, and talking about power or data transfer speed, it's like my Wi-Fi network combined with my computer is plenty fast for anything I would ever want to transfer.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I transferred a file over USB to a phone or tablet.
Yeah, it seems archaic.
Well, I can only hope that we all adopt the same standard because I really hate looking for different cables and for all my different devices around the house. I just do it. Come on, for crying out loud. Well, we had a voicemail this week. Let's give her a listen.
Hi, my name is Scott, and I was calling Android Police because I have a question that I've been trying to solve. So I was playing with, I think it was the HTC Desire I at an AT&T booth, and I noticed one of the things you could do with it is the dual capture. That's where the front camera and the back camera are running at the same time. I thought that was pretty cool. I do a lot of vlogging, and so does my girlfriend, and so I was trying to see if on my Turbo, or the Motorola Droid Turbo is what I have, if there's any app that I can do that I can simulate that where the front and back camera are running at the same time. But so far, what I found out is only like the HTC One M8 and newer than HTC, besides the Desires, and the Desire, can do it. So I'm just trying to find, are there any apps out there where I can do that dual video capture, the front and back, so that you can video is going on in front of you and your reaction. Thanks.
We appreciate the question. Anybody have any ideas out there as far as dual video apps, both front screen and rear screen simultaneous capture?
I am not aware of any apps that do video. There are a number that do still photo capture.
Yeah, I wasn't even aware that HTC phones could do dual video capture. I'm like trying to find that on this M9 right here.
Yeah, I mean, I know Samsung phones used to do that. I don't know if they still do it on the Galaxy S6.
Well,
I think
they
might
did
have taken
pictures.
it out.
I don't think they did video ever.
Didn't they?
Well, one thing I know just from doing video here and having multiple video feeds coming in to my computer at the same time is that it's very taxing on the system to have two simultaneous video feeds, not only graphically but internally on the bus of the cameras, and a lot of times you have to switch back and forth between those buses. So I would imagine something with that high of a data rate as far as live video. If there's anything I don't know if there's anything obviously in prime time because the hardware can't necessarily, it's not completely up to snuff yet, but I imagine when things do come out, or if they do come out, you may be limited to very, very low resolutions to keep that video data rate down.
I think, yeah, and part of the issue there is phones have one image signal processor, and unless you have more than one ISP, you're going to have to do some kind of negotiating with the front camera and the rear camera to get all that stuff.
Yeah, this would be like very low-level driver stuff that that probably you won't be able to do with a third-party app. So yeah, the Galaxy S6 does still have this dual camera. You can do stills and video with the front and back camera at the same time. But it is an add-on thing you have to install manually because very few people use it. But yeah, so I think this is just the sort of thing you'd have to get with a device that specifically supports it. So if it's not included on the Turbo, which I imagine it is not, then I guess you're kind of out of luck.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess that's something you're gonna have to get a new phone for, or more realistically, you probably should just use an action cam if you want to do this kind of thing and then edit it yourself. Doing it on a phone would be cool, but it'd be so much more limiting, and it would just destroy your battery.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, even just recording a single video on a phone is one of the fastest ways to kill the battery.
It really is. I think that actually it has to be the fastest way to kill a battery because it's also the fastest way to overheat a phone.
Right, so if you want melty phones in your hand. No, I actually have to admit, much like the caller, my curiosity is there for people that do podcasting, that do vlogs and that sort of thing. I mean, the idea that you can get a dual cam production, even if something would allow you to switch back and forth on the fly, where you can get audio maybe from both front and back microphones simultaneously and then manually switch your cameras, that would be cool. Maybe an enterprising developer out there might might look into something like that. But I don't think necessarily the technology is there for a primetime app to be created yet.
Yeah, I wonder if you could do that with the new Camera 2 stuff. There are a number of phones now available that have Camera 2 supported. So I don't know, maybe with that, developers would be able to do some sort of dual camera capture thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I just thinking about it, it's like it sounds like something you'd have to have built in at, like I said, a low level to make that work.
Yeah. So I guess we're not really the ones to ask. You should ask your local app developer.
Yep. Or you could
Cool.
buy an Oppo N3 that has, the camera you just flip around.
Oh yeah, you can just flip the
That
camera
solves
around
all your
as
problems.
necessary.
It would just make your audience extremely nauseous, like once in a while when you flip it over and it's a sudden disorientation effect. But otherwise, I think that solves most of your needs.
Well, we didn't have any contests in particular at the site, but as always, you can check androidpolice.com/contests for anything that might pop up there from time to time. But with that, does anybody else have anything for this week they want to leave with? It's a shorter show, shorter week. We'll be back around next week. Will be Friday, so
Yes.
it's going to be it may be a longer show. So prepare your calendars now. Can you prepare a calendar? I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. So we should probably leave something in the recorded show about being on Friday. Well, I guess. Probably. Because it'll be a day late for people who subscribe as compared to a day early.
Right. So this week you get it a day early. Next week, day late. Which means if you listen to us on the drive to work, you'll be listening the following Monday. And I really don't have to go into all this anyway. I'm just going to end the show. Well, hope you enjoyed the show. As always, send your feedback to podcast@androidpolice.com. You can also call us at 530-HELLO-AP. That's 530-435-5627. Find us on Twitter at Android Police, Google Plus, and Facebook. All right. We did it. Yay.
Yeah, it's a quick little show.
Yeah. Ultimately, it
Good
came down to about
information
50
density.
minutes, so.
Yes, good information density.
Yeah, good stuff.
There's no white space in this podcast.
Yes.
No white space. I wish we would have had a better answer for the video app thing, but I just don't think it
Yeah,
exists.
I just think it's not a thing that you can do, or that at least is very hard to do, and nobody has
As
done
much
it
as
yet.
I would like it to exist, now I'm getting excited about future possibilities.
Well, you can just, I guess there are phones you can buy that'll do it.
Yeah.
So I had a ringtone go off as we were doing that because I turned on the Galaxy S6 to check that dual camera thing, and I didn't know the sound was still on.
I don't know if the S5 has it. I know that it
feel
had
like
the dual
it's-
capture, but I
It
didn't
was
know
one
if
of
it was
the.
video.
I mean, it's on the S6. It's one of those things you have to go into the More section and download, and it's called dual camera, and it says you can do stills or video simultaneously front and rear, or so. I mean, yeah. So the description says. Maybe Samsung is just lying.
I would think with it being something hidden, though, man, it's like you guys said, it's got to be something that draws your battery way down.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. If it, and it could be unstable as well. Who knows?
Liam, you've been quiet for so long. Do you want to say anything? Just say something?
No. I'll save it for
Well, we enjoyed having you back, Liam. It's been too long.
the feedback.
And we need to build in more Liam time in there. I think we need to make a segment just for Liam.
Just for
Yeah, you should come up with a sounder for Liam.
Liam, you need to take your hair and build this into a logo and just make it like ask the coif, and that would be a section that we could put on the show.
It'll be like an advice column.
Was that? Yeah, an advice column. It has no. It can't have to do anything with technology, Android, Google. It's just got to be a Liam advice.
It needs to be like personal issues.
Personal
that
issues,
people need
yes.
to sort out.
So
Okay, I
submit.
confirm the S5 does it as well.
Okay, so there we go. Samsung and HTC are on the ball if you need to record 2 videos at the same time.
Get a new phone.
Yeah, that's our advice to him is replace the phone that you just bought.
There you go. We are such huge consumer advocates.
Send your ask the
really.
Liam questions to podcast@androidpolice.com or call us at 530-HELLO-AP.
Yeah, we're
You can
just
send
like,
us any
let me
question. We'll talk about anything at all.
That's
let's
right.
reach into our phone drawers and like tell people what phones they need to replace the phone they just bought with.
Oh yeah, totally.
Nexus 6.
Yes.
Nexus 5, Liam. Nexus 5
If
2015.
if you say anything else, you're heretic.
I'm using a bar of soap is carved into a Nexus 5 until the Nexus 5 2015 comes out. It's a personal safety blanket.
Did you carve a lollipop shape into the screen?
I didn't. I carved some very artful waves crashing against some rocks. Very moody ocean.
I feel like the
Nice.
closest phone to a bar of soap is probably the Nexus 4.
It is.
Yeah,
It is
I believe
very
that.
bar of soap-like, and also being slippery.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of the shape of phones, I feel like Samsung, like, with the S3, they went, like, away from the rectangle. Like, they wanted to get far away from that because that was when all the Apple drama was happening.
Mm.
And ever since then, they've been, like, slowly working their way back into the rectangle.
Yeah, it's like they're looking around the corner and just changing the shape every year or so, and it's like,
You're like, how
did
is
they notice yet? Do they notice yet? Do they notice yet?
Speaking of shapes, we got some questions for you in the chat room, Liam. Dear
Oh,
Liam,
we
what
do?
shape should I use for everything in life?
The answer to that should be obvious. You should use circles.
Oh, I thought you were going to say
Okay.
ovals.
What about squircles? Are those acceptable, or is that like a four-man circle?
The circle is an oval, right? But not all ovals are circles.
Ah.
It's true, much
Squircles-
as a square is a rectangle, but not every rectangle is a square.
You have to be careful with
Mathematic,
circles.
geometric maxims to live by.
That might be an episode title. Geometric maxims to live by. Also,
That's
what
gonna
kind of
confuse people if it's-
what kind of gel does Liam use? Asks.
I don't use gel, I use pomade.
Oh,
pomade.
trick answer.
Ah. And I don't have hair, so I don't qualify. Cool, guys. Well, good show. Hopefully we'll see you guys all next week in the chat room. Remember, next week it is Friday, the time for the show. So set your bat time clock calendar man channels for the viewings. And I'm going to stop the broadcast because that made no sense. And